Yeah, obviously, welcome to the press conference to announce the initial tour party. Great opportunity to test ourselves, obviously going to New Zealand, and very excited about going. And I know now we've got the squad in place, so we're ready for it. Clearly, there's still going to be a number of additions to be made post this weekend's games, so the Viva Premiership Final and the Barbarians game. And we'll make those and announce those in due course, because there's clearly some decisions to be made. Inevitably there's been injuries, and it is unfortunate that we can't take Anthony Watson on the initial flight, but as I've tried to explain in the press release, he will stay here this week, and hopefully we'll get him on the plane on Monday. But it does open up a great opportunity for Chris Pennell, who I think has been great in training and certainly deserves it.
Stuart, talking about injuries, could you just talk about George Ford's unavailability? Not the first time I'll just ask you about that. And where that leaves your options for Auckland in the first test.
Well, it leaves it as with the two fly halves that we've got. So Freddie Burns and Danny Cipriani obviously are going out there. And both of them have got a great opportunity to put markers down as genuine international fly halves. Obviously, Owen and Steve Marler, who've both been exceptional in the latter half of the season, they'll be considered post these games this weekend. But no, it's in Freddie and Danny's court, and they've trained great so far. So looking forward to seeing how they get on.
Yeah, about training. I mean, Danny's been out for 6 years or so. How quickly has he come up to speed here this week?
No, he's done well. He has done well. He's come up to speed. He's got to know the plays. Obviously, build relationships with his players. Some of whom he knows quite well, and others he doesn't know as well. But no, he's been good, and it's a similar defensive structure for him. Mike Forshaw employs a similar structure at Sale, so he's fitted in that well, and he's excited about being here.
And Billy Twelvetrees, does he remain an option to maybe to cover 10? I mean, how's his recovery from injury going?
It's going well. He hasn't trained yet, and it's unlikely he'll train tomorrow before we fly, but we're optimistic enough obviously to take him on the initial flight with a view to assessing him on the Thursday, Friday when we get out there. We've got a Saturday training session, Sunday off in the build-up to the test week, so he's really going to have to be training fully at the start of that test week in order to be considered. But he's certainly made enough progress for it to be a consideration for the first test and definitely for the second, so he's on the plane.
And looking beyond the first test to when the others can join in, what about Mako from Poland? I think some crutches wasn't he on Saturday. Any word about his condition?
We'll wait to hear. He's got a scan today, so he's obviously in Saracens' capable hands. So he's got a scan today, and we'll see how it plays out in the next 24 hours. Obviously, him and Owen both picked up injuries. I think they are more optimistic about Owen than they are about Mako, and we've got decisions to make on the back of that. But we'll wait and see over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, you were there on Saturday watching Steffon Armitage, and you know what I'm going to ask you now. I mean, it was a fantastic performance from him. This rule about overseas players, you inherited it. It wasn't your. Do you still think it's a good idea? Is the door still open for exceptional circumstances? Come a World Cup training camp for Steffon?
I agree with the rule. I agree with the policy. I think it's important from an English club point of view and the national team to get access to the players when you need them. I think it's important for our best players to play in England. I look at the situation in New Zealand, who have a very similar system, in fact more rigid really, where there is no flexibility. And it's not done them any harm over the last few years. So I think it is a good rule, and I think it is one that I would support as a national coach. That said, there is exceptional circumstances, and who's to say this time next year, if he's still playing as well, the door might be opened.
I know you spoke about Steffon Armitage a little, but I mean, you did go over to France, and his brother, they are clearly in your thoughts, is that right?
I wanted to go and have a chat with them just to reassure them that I respected the fact that they were playing well and both good players, and there was no issue from my point of view about their ability. You know what I mean? Because clearly they are good players. The rule is there in place for a reason, and as I said before, I supported it. So that was the purpose of the visit really, and to make sure that they heard it from me directly rather than in any other way.
It seems that we obviously got opinion pieces this morning from people saying Steffon should be picked, shouldn't be picked. This is something that I guess will run until the World Cup almost, won't it?
I guess so, but I don't think the rule's going to change.
One interesting part, obviously, Stuart, is the hooker situation where you've got 4 really good players. Rob, who's got a bit of England experience, but it's going to be a huge step up for whoever gets the nod in the 16 shirt for that first test, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and, you know, to be honest, we've named 4, but we've not ruled Dylan Hartley out yet, to be honest. Dylan's, I'm sure, going to try and fight his way into the Northampton team this weekend. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but we want to give him the flexibility and the opportunity to come on the tour. Should he get the opportunity and should he play and play well on Saturday? But in order to cover our bases, if that wasn't to transpire and Rob Webber's still on the road to recovery, we've got to make sure we've got enough for the trip. And losing Tom Youngs, as you know about, and David Pace, it does bring opportunities. And Luke Cowan-Dickey, as an example, has been exceptional in training. For those that have seen him develop from an international loosehead age grade to starting hooker in the Premiership, and what he's done at Exeter Chiefs, you know, he's an example of, for me, the benefits of the tour and understanding who has the ability to be at the highest level and get more depth in those positions.
And the blend of this squad, for obvious reasons, you've got the likes of James Haskell fighting his way back in and very hungry. Ed Slater, who's been so consistent for so many years. I like the kind of dynamic you've got as a result of what you've had to do, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you know, James, super excited about being back in. I think you guys, he's coming to the press conference later on, and I'm sure he'll talk about that in his own way. But no, he's excited to be back in. And you know, when you look at the pack and the players we've got available there, you know, in terms of the second rows, the back row combination mix we can go with. But not just that, the additions that we'll make after the first test and how that'll play out for the second test, the Canterbury game and the third test.
Stuart, you've got decisions to make at fly half. You've been a coach that picks on form. How much is the battle between form and perhaps credit in the bank going to figure in your mind?
It'll be both, really. We'll actually make the decision at fly half, as we will probably in some other positions, based on training and what happens in the next, or what has happened in the last few days, and what will happen in the next week and a half. You know, we'll announce the team a week on Thursday, but in our own minds by a week on Tuesday we'll be reasonably clear, which still gives us a pretty important training session this afternoon, a very important training session tomorrow, 15 on 15. Saturday out in New Zealand, and Monday and Tuesday in New Zealand. So that particular position, as one or two others, will probably play out on the training field as opposed to what's led to it.